in a massive abundance. And the challenge is to try and find that data, to organize it, and then to draw the value out of it that will improve your business. It's not just the data itself that's inherently value, it's your ability to draw the insights and the value out of that data. So what I'm going to do is try and unpack a few tangible stuff. We heard from Mark Smith this morning, which was awesome. I've just had a chat with him over lunch and had my brains blown out with like geek tech talk, and it's been an education for me. I absolutely love it. But I'm going to try and talk about some of the practical ways that the usage of data can impact your business. So first of all, I need to apologize for my Movember mustache. It's a shadow of what it should be. I think someone stunted my facial growth abilities about the age of 14. But I'll quickly whisk you through my story and then we'll get into the good stuff. I started in business when I was 18. I started a company called Broadplace, an advertising agency with a little bit of tech in the background. We then sold that when I was 21, and I took the same business model and I came to Cape Town. After asking certain questions, I won't bore you with my long personal journey, but trying to figure out what needs to be done. And I thought what I'll do is I'll use the skills that I'd learned and try and start a business in South Africa, and Cape Town seemed to be a bit more fun than going to Johannesburg at the time, so I decided to do that. After that, I then went to Brazil. I did the similar thing with a bunch of guys out there, and then I came back to London and I worked on 2 social enterprises, one in education through tutoring, actually in partnership with a company I'd met over here in South Africa, and the other working with kids in gangs, helping them when they come out of prison to try and take on employment. And all of those projects have had, varying degrees of success, and probably none as successful, definitely none as successful as the first exit. But about 2 years, is this all right, by the way? It sounds a little bit echoey for me.
Yeah, it's okay?
Good. Okay, cool. About 2 years ago, I realized that this mobile paradigm shift was happening, and I wanted to get on that bandwagon. So we launched Cubate, a mobile business incubator. But it wasn't long after we started on the mobile journey that we realized that social, mobile, and local go completely hand in hand, a concept that I'm sure you're all familiar with, and it's what's driving forward the innovation of the web that we know today. More recently, in the last 6 months, though, I've realized that when I've started to see these alarming statistics around the amount of data that's being created, that it's actually the data from within these social, mobile, local paradigm that's moving that is the most valuable asset, potentially, if it can be harnessed from within your business. From the business incubator that we started 2 years ago, we spawned 3 businesses, 2 of which are commerce-related, data-centric, social commerce businesses, and one of them is Givi, which is a social donation platform. I'm now CEO of Givi, and about 3 months ago I homed down and started focusing solely on this project. It's the one that, as one of my mentors asked me the gut-wrenching question, which of these businesses are you going to let define you? And it was like, oh, I like working on so many different things. But personal journey is I've decided that it's time to focus on one, and this is the one that I enjoy the most. It's the way of collecting the data. If you look at, have any of you used online fundraising platforms for people running the marathon or anything like that? 1, 2, 3, a few. Probably in England it would be like 2/3 of the room. It's probably a bit more of a mature market. But essentially the fundraising platforms gone by have been ones focused around fundraising, an individual event, or basically transactional, really efficient at taking online payments. What we're trying to do is build a home for giving, a place where all of your contributions to the third sector get stored in one place. Now the reason it's relevant, I'm not just banging on about my own projects for no reason, but this is where my learning has come from that I'm trying to share with you today, something practical and tangible. We have created this dashboard environment around the individual, around all of the personal data that gets kicked off around their social interactions with people that care about similar things to them, and about the causes that they have contributed, both financially, their time, their money, that's the financial part, their stuff, and their voice or their influence. Every 2 days we create as much data or information as was in all of history up until 2003, says Eric Schmidt. And in 2003, 2004, that's when Facebook came along, and that whole web paradigm shift has completely changed the gearing in the amount of data that's being created. Just take, for example, have any of you seen Runkeeper before, or used Runkeeper, or a similar running application on their iPhone or something like that? This is a classic example of why there's so much more data now than there was even a couple of years ago. This is my friend Joe, who runs Givi with me, and as you can see, there's tons of data just about his running. Just a couple of years ago, there wouldn't be any data around this at all. So it's a complete shift for him, and in some ways, Givi is very similar. It's taking a niche hobby, something that doesn't have, there's no drilled down social network to handle the intricacies. Like, no, I don't want to see that he's just completed a 3.22 mile run and it's just another one of his runs. But one of his 5 street mates really does care about that. So I think that the opportunity in the social networking sphere at the moment is not to try and necessarily compete with Facebook with a similar product, but to build niche social networks on top that handle a more drilled down detail. I don't know if any of you have found the problem where there's somebody who you're not really sure if you want to add to Facebook because you kind of should say yes, but you kind of should because they don't really fit in that mold. I mean, I'm very lucky actually. My dad's traveled with me to South Africa this week. It's been a blast for him to come with me and spend time. But the thing about having parents on Facebook is a little bit dodgy at times. You know, you kind of think, I don't know really if I want you to see all of my stuff on Facebook, but at the end of the day, we are in a relationship and there's no better way. I actually believe there's a massive opportunity for somebody to come with a really slick family social network. Our work profiles are kind of handled by LinkedIn, and there's some communication stuff with Twitter, and Facebook kind of looks after our social profiles. And we've got niche social networks coming up to handle hobbies, but who's looking after the family relationships? The relationship with your family is much more innate. They don't really care so much what you're doing as who you are. Are you okay? My mum probably and my sisters probably would have liked to have seen touchdown in Joburg safely. You know, my friends don't care to know that on Facebook. It's slightly different message, it's a different tone. So I think there are still a lot of opportunities in social networking. But just to explain, 2001 iTunes came along. I know, I apologize with this analogy. I know it's tricky here in South Africa. Some things don't work as they do in the UK. But in 2001, iTunes came along, and for my money, it is the pinnacle of the Industrial Revolution. It's the whole market under one roof with instant payment and instant delivery. I mean, whoever was building the first factories, trying to like think about how to make goods, ship goods, and get money for those goods would think this was like an absolute dream. And it was all good, and they're making lots of money. They're probably still making lots of money, but all I can do is talk from my personal journey that 2003, something changed. This guy came along and changed the way. They've come with a completely different mentality to iTunes and Google about how we organize the data in this world, thinking that actually the most important thing is what our friends care about and what our friends like. But then 2008, Spotify came along. How many of you know Spotify? Okay, a good chunk of you. It's not here, right? No, it doesn't work here. You've got it? Oh, great. Basically, instead of what iTunes has done, have taken the original format for purchasing music and broken it down into single songs and made it digital, made it easy, but it's still following the same paradigm. What Spotify have done, have taken the same content, but completely re-engineered how you discover, experience, and pay for that content. I discover all of my music now through my friend, not all, most. The other portion is through YouTube. And then I listen to it beautifully on my mobile, download it as well. It's great. The reason I got it initially was because I wanted different music for when I was flying a lot. And then now I pay £10 per month for the premium thing, so there's no flipping adverts, and I don't pay for the individual songs. Now, I'm sorry if some of you know that already, but it's just worth saying. They've completely put the social web at the heart of their business model, and it's not just a marketing strategy, it's completely reformed the structure of the business, or created an opportunity for a new structure of the business in the music industry, and it's then gone on to affect the revenue model and how they create revenue. In the last year, I've paid them £120, and I've paid iTunes nothing, and I didn't do it so that I'd have something to say here. I only figured this out a few weeks ago. But actually, they have completely disrupted the market for me. And what's more, my music listening and experience has never been better. I'm enjoying all sorts of new music. I saw some videos recently from the Web 2.0 conference in the States, and some people were making murmurs about, like, is it Web 3.0 now, this data revolution or whatever? But for my money, we're only really still just scratching the surface of Web 2.0. So when Web 2 came out, all of a sudden it's like an extra avenue to advertise your business, to get people to put their social equity, to promote to their friends, and it's really great. Then it's become like a core part of a lot of marketing strategies. But now what we're seeing, like this is my Facebook from a couple of weeks ago, where all of a sudden, Spotify, I could control the functionality of it from within Facebook itself. And this is a complete shift. It's not just advertising or pushing messages around. It's actually functional. So this is one of the first signs. I mean, Spotify is one of the most forward-thinking businesses in terms of how to leverage the Web 2 paradigm. And I think this is a sign of things to come. We're going to see a lot more functional interactions from within the social networks. And fundamentally, Facebook blocking a partnership with iTunes is what set them apart, and that's what's changed. They agreed a partnership with Spotify and declined it with iTunes. And you saw what happened, I think, about a year ago when iTunes came out with Ping, because Ping recognized that they need to be capitalizing on this kind of social paradigm, and they've literally done what most incumbent businesses do, which is literally just bolt something on the side with that Ping column that they stuck on the side. I've never used Ping, not once, because it's not really got to the heart of the business and the heart of the business model. They're just doing what they think they're meant to be doing to keep up with the times and try to compete. So recently I've had for the last 2 months, I've been working harder than I ever have in my life. I've been completely run ragged. I've been part of this program called Ignite 100 up in Newcastle in England. And it's Europe's first £1 million accelerator program. And they've invested in 10 early-stage startup businesses, 100,000 into each business. And they basically work you like slave labor and try and accelerate the businesses, throw like 50 mentors around it. And it's been absolute blast. If any of you ever get an opportunity to do a startup, go through Accelerator, I'd recommend it. You make friends, I think, for life. I think there's 2 or 3 guys there that I'll be friends with forever. But the interesting thing, the reason I bring it up, is that 6 out of 10 of the businesses are pure data plays. They're not businesses that have some data or have a bit of social media in them or whatever. Everybody's got a bit of social media in them now. But they are, from start to finish, from how people discover the product that they're offering, to how they experience it, to how they pay for it, and how the business makes money, is all geared around the data that they're creating. And everything from the arts to what else is there? Stat comparison stuff, to an experience website. All of it around data. Well, 6 out of 10. We're getting into the Dave's crap drawings part of the presentation, so I apologize about this, but I tried to explain this to my designer, and he just didn't get what I was saying, so I had to scribble it myself. But just like Mark was saying earlier, it's not just knowing, it's not just starting with the person in the center and then building out their social world from that place. I'm sorry if you can't see it, but it's like me, my friends, my family, and then my acquaintances and other people I know on the web. It's not just that that's important. It's understanding that data over time. So that like whirlwindy, cocoony type thing is an attempt to show who I was yesterday, who I looked like the day before, and who I was like up to a year ago or whatever. Once you know that over time, you've got a trend for what that person is doing, and you've got a growing relationship with them. Just like in real life, when we meet someone, we build a relationship with them over time. And over time, you can predict what kind of presents they might like at Christmas or for their birthday or whatever, because you know them. And this is the key for anybody who wants to, for example, let's take advertising platforms. If you want to be able to compete with Google for small businesses, pounds spent, you're going to have to provide them with really targeted, rich analytical services. There's no competition. I did that for 3 years or whatever in the UK with about 500 SMEs, and there's no competition for them between paying, testing something for 100 quid on Google and getting unbelievable amounts of data back, and being able to reiterate and feel confident they may be able to improve even if the result wasn't there in the first instance, versus paying £2,000 for a half-page spread in a broadsheet or whatever and having no idea whether it worked or not, apart from whether the phone rang. It's very hard to manage the impact. However, if you're a niche publication, let's say you're a car magazine or something like that, then if you can start building personal data from the people that are using or interacting with your brand, then over time you can build up this data, predict the intent, and then use that data to have a decent shout at winning small businesses marketing pounds.